All these social media posts about listing your first job and first car and favorite color seem like a pretty obvious ploy to figure out people's passwords. Looney Tunes doesn't get enough credit for introducing countless children to classical music. A telltale sign you're becoming an adult is when you first realize how freaking fast dust forms. Dogs hear us talk all day, but if they bark for more than a minute we tell them to stop. You've probably never seen your grandparents jump. It actually makes sense that they use physical media in Star Wars instead of digital copies. When you have a ship that can go faster than light, it's probably much quicker to just bring someone a disk than it is to try and email it to them. Queen Elizabeth's passing will probably have a bigger impact on internet culture than on British culture. As we empty our lint traps, we're just slowly throwing our clothes in the garbage. The later it gets in the night, the more acceptable it becomes to eat an entire box of cereal. If Waldo changed his shirt, literally no one could find him. Popcorn is probably just as unique as snowflakes, but nobody cares. You can tell how blunt a knife is by how far it fires the piece of carrot you are chopping. Desktop computers went from being for nerds, to being for everyone, to being for nerds again. It's assumed that passing away in your sleep is a peaceful way to go, but in reality, it could be the scariest possible night terror ever. It must have been really hard for the creator of bicycles to convince people that it is possible for almost anyone to ride it. When you hear the word farm you think of cows and sheep. But when you hear the word farmer you think of someone growing crops. Cats and dogs get along much better than we were led to believe as children. Your adult personality is your child personality filtered through society. If you grew up in a world with garbage internet and tech, you're probably more tech savvy than the average person who grew up with more advanced tech. There are people who have never seen a mechanical cash register but still associate the cha-ching sound with money. The day cheese becomes an acceptable gift is the day you officially become an adult. Trees have leaves and provide shade when you need it most, and lose their leaves and let the sun through when you need it most. The About the Author section of an autobiography is riddled with spoilers. Every person on earth was made without their consent. They're coming for you. And nobody's coming for you. Can both be very menacing threats. Our pets don't seem to be weirded out that we change color from the neck down each day. If you hear birds chirping before the sun's out, you're either ultra productive or you've lost control of your life. The word indescribable can never be used accurately. People asking you to subscribe to their channel gives you the same feeling as your parents asking you to clean your room. Suddenly, you don't want to even if you did. If cats could fly, we'd rarely see them in the air unless they were hunting birds. They'd mostly stare at us condescendingly from the tops of buildings and utility poles. Since James Bond constantly introduces himself, he'd probably be a terrible spy. The last day all humans were living on Earth together was November 2, 2000. Since then, there has always been someone living on board the International Space Station, ISS. Shoes probably think we all died. Every room is an escape room, they just vary in difficulty. A child who was born after the last census and died before the next census was never actually counted in the population. When a cat falls asleep in your lap, it's not a display of trust as we believe it to be. It's the ultimate display of dominance, for they know we will not move until they allow it. Matt Groening could actually be from the future, and everything that The Simpsons predicted is his way of warning us about what's going to happen. Dogs have the difficult decision of deciding whether a snack is large enough to take to a rug, or if they can just eat it where they are. Callous are the body's way of saying here, doofus. Here's body armor. Clap on lights that react to sex smacks must be a hilarious yet bothersome phenomena. Porn gives people an unrealistic expectation of how quickly a plumber will get to your house. By yourself, rewatching a series you loved but just finished a month ago sounds redundant and pointless, but rewatching it with someone you care about who hasn't seen it yet makes it 10 times more enjoyable. Our pets probably see us as chameleons or shapeshifters since we wear different clothes of different sizes and color every day. School prepares you more for a game show than the real world. Most kids of Gen Z have seen 10x more real deaths through the internet than their parents ever have in their life. The guys who work at the factories where they make weights are probably more jacked than the guys who end up using them. If you stare at Medusa's chest, she can't turn you into stone. Someone who does the same thing over and over again expecting different results is insane. Someone who very slightly tweaks their thing over and over again expecting different results is a scientist. Self-cannibalism would technically give one a lifelong supply of food. Rick Astley could be a serial killer and we wouldn't know because no one would open the article. A shorter pencil tells a longer story. We find it adorable when dogs do human things but disturbing when humans do dog things. We probably all missed out on great shows because we didn't like the pilot. Once you become conscious of the laugh track on a sitcom, the show becomes less funny. The more comfortable you are with someone, the more you insult them. A liar knows every detail to a story that they're telling you. An honest person doesn't. If you skip a rock into a lake, you're probably the last person to touch it for all existence. The moon is a solar-powered nightlight. If we are all made of meat, and the sun is a fire that the earth rotates next to, that makes us all come together to be an enormous rotisserie chicken. The alphabet is in a random order that we decided was the correct one. You most likely will never see your brain or your organs in your life, yet you are so close to them. The phone shows a screen showing no battery left even though it needs battery to show it. We are soon going to know who has a hairdresser in their family and who does not. Tiger King is the most Florida thing ever filmed. And 90% of it takes place in Oklahoma. As far as we know, the dentist in Finding Nemo sailed out to the middle of the ocean for a baby clownfish. It's a shame that people are taken advantage of so often that you're deemed virtuous by not following suit. At one point, something in your refrigerator will have the same expiration date as you. The person who coined "cat got your tongue" must have been witness to some weird shit. Great minds don't think alike. If they did, they'd be average minds. If you drive differently when you're behind a car with a baby on board sticker, you drive like an asshole. You're probably in a picture frame in someone else's house from accidentally being in the background. Having children ages you, but having grandchildren keeps you young. Beds are parking spots for our bodies. One day, flies will evolve in a way that they can fly out the window. You have probably insulted your friends more than someone you actually hate. Some of your friends make better music than some of these mainstream artists, but y'all won't support them till everyone else does. Waving to your neighbor on the street is totally fine, but waving to them through your window is kinda creepy. Historians basically have degrees in hindsight. Our definition of essential worker is very rarely reflected in what they're paid. If our noses were upside down, we would all drown when it rains. A dog's tail and the human heart are very similar in terms of how they react to excitement. Speedrunners of VR games will have to be physically fit. Food trucks need to just drive around like ice cream trucks. Kidnapping and kidnapping sounds exactly the same, but one puts you in jail. It would make more sense to spend taxpayer money on internet connectivity instead of adding more lanes to commuter roads. The sun is the lowest on the food chain. The belly button is probably the first scar in all of mammal history. Both the wettest and driest places have sand as a key material. Marriage lets you annoy one special person for the rest of your life. If someone punches you, there's no need to punch them back because your face has already applied equal and opposite force to their hand. Fat cats don't know why they're fat and they probably don't care. We are living through an event that our children/grandchildren will likely read about in history books. Mortal Kombat is the only game in which the developers are required to animate the inside of the characters as well as, and as effectively as, the outside of the character. Nobody's life is better than the characters in the first 10 minutes of a horror movie. Somewhere out there is a hospital bed that has had the most amount of people die in it. People that just got off house arrest are going to be mad. Wet plastic bags are fucking gross. The slowest way to die is by staying alive. We have all just been given a sneak preview of how we are going to handle retirement. Q seems like an overly complicated spelling. No matter how old you get, sticking your leg out the side of the bed from under the covers is still associated with a monster dragging you to hell. The more expensive the food is, the longer the 5-second rule is. As soon as possible and ASAP register as different connotations of urgency.